Morning, everyone. You'll have to pardon me. I'm a little slow this morning. My blood pressure is 80/60, and lower, and so you're going to have to do a lot of talking this morning. The assignment was to read Habakkuk. I guess I should have said the first assignment is find Habakkuk, because it's in the Minor Prophets, and I still have problems with the Minor Prophets finding them. Reason why we're looking at Habakkuk is we're looking for the providence of God. And usually when people look at Habakkuk, I'm not sure that that's the subject that they are aiming at. But I think, let's see if you agree with this by the end of the class. Habakkuk kind of turns providence upside down from what we normally expect. Usually when we think about, providence, we could see, immediately, oh, what a blessing that was. God is providing. He's answered my prayers. God's providence. Habakkuk kind of turns that upside down, because Habakkuk is asking God to get involved. So if you have your Bibles open to Habakkuk, we're going to start in verse 1 and then read a few verses. My translation reads, the pronouncement that the prophet Habakkuk saw. And this is a common way that the minor prophets begin. I think it's a helpful idea for us to understand and then apply to even today. You look at that word pronouncement. I'm curious, what do your translations say? The prophecy, Sherilyn? Yes, verse 1. The King James, even though I don't use it because I can't speak Elizabethan English very well or even understand it, sometimes it is extremely accurate. It's a word-for-word translation, like many other translations. And just sometimes it just hits the nail on the head. And burden. Why would a prophecy or pronouncement be a burden? It's a prediction of judgment. Anybody got any other? Sherilyn?
In his situation, it seems like the sky's falling.
Yes.
And he doesn't understand. Once again, our modern day thing is, why did God do this to me? Or why did God do this to us? Or why is God acting like this?
Yeah. And so, what's a good application for us today that these prophets, when they were prophesying, they were tasked with a burden? What's a good application for us today? Janet? Okay, teaching people that they're lost. Sherilyn?
To me, it's in every situation, look for the blessing. When I was younger, I didn't do that, but as I get older, I realized there were always blessings. So now look for blessings in all situations.
Okay. When you
And
look
they're
for,
there.
when you look for blessings, are you looking for providential action of God? Is that what a blessing would be? God's providence? Perhaps. Any other reasons why a prophecy would be considered a burden? Modern day. Make the application of modern day. Go ahead.
We definitely don't like what we see around us today.
Most of the minor prophets, most of the prophets, most of even what the apostles wrote, most of what Jesus said, was it generally to God's people or to those that are not in a covenant with God?
Mostly God's people.
Mostly God's people.
But there was two books,
Yes.
devoted to small minor prophets to them.
Even those were probably written to Israel.
Yeah.
To the nation.
So the majority of a burden is towards those are in a covenant with God. I have often told people, and I say it jokingly, but I say it truthfully. When I moved to work with a congregation, I moved there to stay. I don't have an agenda to leave after 2 years or 3 years. But then I'll also say, when I move to a congregation, I work week to week, because as a preacher, and I've experienced this and other people have experienced it, you're actually really working week to week because of what you preach. It could be a burden. Do you think any preacher has ever preached a moving sermon? And by that I don't mean moved the congregation, but a moving sermon moved the preacher. It can be a burden delivering God's message. And specifically the burden here, let's keep on reading. How long, Lord, must I call for help, and you do not listen? Or cry out to you about violence, and you do not save? Why do you force me to look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrongdoing? Oppression and violence are right in front of me. Strife is ongoing and conflict escalates. This is why the law is ineffective and justice never emerges. For the wicked restrict the righteous, therefore justice comes out perverted. Sum up for me Habakkuk's complaint.
Justice is perverted. Actually, it reminds me of today. but I mean, he's questioning God. So, where is your justice?
He is questioning God. He is asking God to get involved, to intervene, to interject himself within this historical point in time. Can everybody see that? He's asking God to interject himself into this historical point in time. Does God already know what's going on? What's God's answer? Let's start reading in verse 5. Look at the nations and observe. Be utterly astounded. For I am doing something in your days that you will not believe when you hear about it. How many of you have ever heard of Ripley's Believe It or Not? God invented Ripley's Believe It or Not. God is telling him, if I told you, you wouldn't believe it. Now, he's going to tell him. Will Habakkuk believe it? Eventually, he will. Yeah. At first, it's like, I don't believe this, God. And we'll see that in a moment. Look, I am raising up the Chaldeans, that bitter, impetuous nation that marches across the earth's open spaces to seize territory not its own. They are fierce and terrifying. The views of justice and sovereignty stem from themselves. Their horses are swifter than leopards and more fierce than wolves of the night. Their horsemen charge ahead. Their horsemen come from distant lands. They fly like eagles swooping to devour. All of them come to do violence. Their faces are set in determination. They gather prisoners like sand. They mock kings, and rulers are a joke to them. They laugh at every fortress and build siege ramps to capture it. Then they sweep by like the wind and pass through. They are guilty. Their strength is their God. I am curious. The last line of verse 11. How does your version read? Anybody?
Is their God.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody have one that doesn't say their strength is their God?
Their own might is their God.
Okay.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. Anybody else have anything? Janet?
King James says, ascribing this power to his God.
Okay. Which is a little different. Sherilyn?
Old King James insists power.
Power is their God? Okay, a few things about this passage. One, would you want to have to fight against his army? Two, their army had the same problem that many people have today. This one says, their strength is their God. Now, if we were to interpret that, we would understand that their strength is their God. It means that their confidence is in themselves. If you were to make a modern application to this, and we'll get back to providence in just a second. If you were to make a modern application to this, give me a sentence that you can fill in the blank. Their blank is their God. Okay. Their pride and their ability is their God. Their will, okay. Their will, whatever they want, is their God. Make modern applications. Can you, as you look around the world, as you look at even churches, as you look at yourself, their blank, their attitude is their God. Sports are their God. Women are their God. Is that what you? Wealth. We'll get to women in just a second. What was that? Their stuff. Their intellect. Yeah. Hugh.
Say whatever they want, whatever they want, on the internet, whatever.
That reminds me of the saying we used to hear many years ago. Worship at the church of your choice.
Yep. Anybody else? Their blank is their God.
Their sexual freedom is their God.
Their sexual freedom is their God. That's going on a lot today. Anybody else? Okay, let's take all of them and truncate it into a simple sentence. I'll tell you how many words it is as soon as I say it, because I don't know right now. Instead of their blank is their God and filling the blank in with whether it's women, sexual freedom, their possessions, their stuff, their wealth. The way that some people act, I would even say their Americanism is their God. Or their politics is their God. But let's truncate it. Let me count. It's got 4 words instead of 5. So I truncated it down by 1 word. They are their God. Now, let's go back. The problem with these people is they are their God. Okay, now, we're going to go back, but just refresh your memory. Verse 12. Are you not from eternity, Lord, my God? My Holy One? You will not die. Lord, you appointed them to execute judgment. My rock? Okay, so who is Habakkuk claiming as his God? Yahweh. He is, so these people they are their God, but you are my God. How can you allow this? Okay, now, we've seen the problem of the Chaldeans. We've seen the power of the Chaldeans. Okay, so the problem of the Chaldeans, the power of the Chaldeans. The next P in this alliteration is the providence of God using the Chaldeans. Why are the Chaldeans coming? God's own covenant people are not living up to the covenant that He gave them. They're going after false gods. There's a lot of violence and injustice going on. So, why are the Chaldeans coming? There's two answers you could give, but one is more accurate. One you could say is they are coming because of their power. They are just running over everybody. Is that true? Yes. But there's another reason why they are coming. What's the greater reason why they are coming? God's justice. Janet, your hand.
Hey, he's been warning them that this was going to happen if they kept going the way they're going. So this is God's providence sending His justice.
Verse 6. Why are the Chaldeans coming? There's three answers. One, they are a powerful and hungry nation. Two, because of the sin of the people that are in a covenant with God. Verse 6, why are they coming? God is sending them. He is raising them up. Yes. He is raising up the Chaldeans. The providence of God, I want us to learn this lesson from Habakkuk. When we think of the providence of God, I think we often, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong. As you know, you have no problem doing that. When we think of the providence of God, I think we often think of, blessings. God intervening and providing what we need. And that's true, but is what we need always positive? No. So here God is providing the Chaldeans. He already knew the problem. That's part of providence, foreseeing. He had already made the plan before Habakkuk ever prayed. And the answer is the Chaldeans, the Babylonians are coming. Do you think I'm correct in assigning God sending or raising up, I'll just use the way that is written, raising up the Chaldeans to discipline the nation of Israel or Judah? Do you think it is correct, and if not, tell me why not, that I am putting this under the heading of God's providence? Anybody else? Whether you agree or disagree, feel free to talk. Am I incorrect assigning God raising up the Chaldeans as a providential act to discipline His people? Paul. Awaken. That's an important point. I purposely chose, did somebody else have their hand raised? Okay. I purposely chose the word discipline instead of the word punishment because I wanted the concept of teaching them to be in the mind of God and in the mind of Habakkuk and in the mind of the people, that the ultimate purpose of this is to bring you back. So I think this is God's providence. He is providing a method. Are the people of Habakkuk's audience, the southern kingdom, are they going to go into exile? Is exile going to teach them anything? What now, John? Say that again. Oh, they give up idols. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling good. I'll blame me instead of you. Yes, when they come back, you'll see some struggling, but ultimately, the lesson of that the Jews learned from exile is they gave up idols. How did God succeed in getting them to give up idols? The history of the northern kingdom, the history of the southern kingdom is filled with God's covenant people worshiping other gods. Sherilyn.
They had gone so over the hill, so to speak, because what little bit of history, and I'm not a history buff, that's for sure. They were doing, this is when they were sacrificing their children to these idols and things of this nature. So they had gone completely off the track.
He would send prophets because they've gone off the track. They would preach, they would have this burden that they would have to say. But finally, the ultimate thing that God provides is exile. Now, when we look at this concept of providence, and I said, you could correct me if I'm wrong, we generally think of God providing, and it's something good, it's something we want, it's something we need, it's something positive. We look at this and we think, oh, I'm not sure that's providence because of our false concept of a providence to begin with. And that is, we look at this as negative. Punishment. But ultimately, is God providing what they need? Yeah. So ultimately, is this use of the Chaldeans, even though it leads to exile and the destruction of God's own city, because he said, this city is mine. This land is mine. I'm letting you use it, but it is mine. And the Jews had the concept, oh, God would never allow the temple to be destroyed. Excuse me. Because it's his temple. So when God brought in the Chaldeans, God's people were punished. God's temple was destroyed. God allowed all of this to bring them back. Now that might be a backside window approach to providence, but I think that's a good way to look at Habakkuk. Sherilyn.
Because God gives us what we need. He knows what we need. And he knew that, and they had become so complacent that they could behave any way they wanted to in their self-confidence, as you just mentioned. And they needed something to straighten them up, to fly right, and so this is what they needed, exile, and it did help.
Shirley.
And that God's temple, God's city being destroyed, that's nothing compared to God's Son being crucified on the cross, which is coming down the years in another dispensation of time.
That's what we've always got to do with the Old Testament. We got to try to find Jesus in it. Okay, we got verses 12 through 17 in chapter 1, and we've got 7 minutes left. Okay, I'm not going to read 12 through 17. I'm basically going to just sum it up like this. God told Habakkuk, you won't believe me, and Habakkuk says, you're right, I don't believe you. Verse 1 of chapter 2. I really like how the New American Standard words this. So if anybody has the New American Standard, get ready to read. I think the CSB, even though I think it's a great translation, I think it softens somewhat what Habakkuk is saying. I will read the CSB. I will stand at my guard post and station myself on the lookout tower. I will watch to see what he will say to me and what I should reply about my complaint. Anybody got the New American Standard? Go ahead, Paul.
I will stand on the guard post and station myself on the ramp, and I will keep watch to see what he will speak to me, and how I may reply when I am reproved.
Yeah. Anybody got another version that might read a little differently or similar as either one of those? I like this because he understands that God is going to reprove him, and he's right. Reproof is not necessarily negative. It is a correction. The positive way to understand the CSB is this. It uses the word complaint. Do you think Christians ever complain to God? Of course not. Is it okay to complain to God? Alan? You went up, so don't you want to say something? What?
What may be sad is how many of us complain to each other, but don't ever complain to the Lord.
Okay. That's a good point. Anybody else? Now, sometimes you see in the Bible, his people take a complaint to God, and God responds in a positive way. Well, we're going to see this, that he's going to respond in a positive way. Sometimes God does not respond in a positive way. I think a lot of it has to do with our attitude when we complain. Yes, Chris.
Maybe a point in favor of complaining. might be that we tend to complain to the one that we think can do something about the situation.
That's a good point, too. Y'all are writing a sermon for me. And he does that at the very beginning. Lord, how long? I like the New American Standard when it says reprove, because he's putting himself in a position of submission. When he says, I will wait here to see how I am reproved. What he is saying is, I know God is right. I must be wrong. I don't understand it, but I'll wait here for God's reproof. Alan.
The update of the New American Standard says, how I may reply when I am reprimanded.
Oh, even stronger.
It seems like he anticipates that God will reprimand him for being so honest in revealing his feelings earlier. But as I keep reading, I don't see any reprimand. It was okay that he was as honest as he was, as candid as he was with God.
In fact, God is going to give him a secret. That secret is in verse 4.
So he's braced for the reprimand.
He's what now?
He is braced.
Braced,
to
yes.
be reproved and reprimanded, but that's not what comes.
Yeah. He's in a place of submission. In his mind, he knows he should be reproved because he is in a place of submission. God had given him an answer. He didn't understand it. But instead of God, condemning him, God gives him the answer on how to survive this providence of God. Alan. It is. Very much so. The providential grace of God. That secret is found in verse 4, the last line. But the righteous one will live by his faith. Usually we just take that in reference to salvation. Well, it's got a more narrow meaning here. And look at how Habakkuk ends as we're running out of time. Verse 16. I heard and I trembled within. My lips quivered at the sound. Rottenness entered my bones. I trembled where I stood. Now I must quietly wait for the day of distress to come against the people invading us. Though the fig tree does not bud and there is no fruit on the vines, though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though the flocks disappear from the pen and there are no herds in the stalls, yet I will celebrate in the Lord. I will rejoice in the God of my salvation. The Lord is my strength. Kind of different from the Chaldeans. The Lord, my Lord, is my strength. He makes my feet like those of a deer and enables me to walk on mountain heights. Is God's providence always pleasant to endure? No. How do we navigate survive a providence that makes us tremble. How do we do this? The righteous will live by faith. This verse, I believe, shows us and Habakkuk talks about salvation. This verse shows us that the righteous are saved by faith, which is quoted, I think, 4 times in the New Testament. As a broader application than just initial salvation. The righteous shall live by their faith means that their life, their trembling life, their quivering life, their distressed life is survived by faith in God. That means having faith that God is doing the right thing, no matter what it is, no matter how we see it. God is doing the right thing. And in that, we have faith. God's providence. I believe John says in prayers often, and he can correct me here because he's right here. God, he prays, God, I know whatever you're doing, it is the right thing to do. Don't remember saying that, or did I go? I've heard you, at least I think I have, say or pray. Well, we know whatever happens, whatever God does, it's the right thing. Providence is not always easy. God's grace is not always enjoyable, because sometimes providence is painful to discipline us, to bring us back. That is Habakkuk and providence. Anybody got any closing questions? Yes, Hugh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for the class and your participation. I'm sorry. On Wednesday, and I forgot to look to see which addendum it is, but find the addendum that's, I think, entitled The Fullness of Time, Galatians 4:4, and we're going to see how God used providence in another way. Thank you very much.